Welcome to Creating a Model-Driven App, Section 2.1, Creating our first model-driven app. In this video, we're going to create our production environment, we're also going to create our first model-driven app, and we're going to access the App Designer for the first time. And we're going to view our first app. Let's get started creating our first model-driven app. We're going to start by going to the Office portal and navigating to make.powerapps.com. You can type in make.powerapps.com if you don't see that icon when you go to the Office landing portal. Because this is our first app, we're going to create an environment to begin with. In order to do this, we're going to go to the Admin Center using the Settings button here on the top, and then clicking Admin Center. You might not have access to the Admin Center. If you don't worry, you can contact your systems administrator. They should be able to create the environment for you. If you're using the Community Edition license for Power Apps, then an environment should already exist for you. You may not have to perform this step. After loading the Admin Center, we're going to go click Environments, and then I'm going to click New at the top to create a new environment for my app to live in. Now, there's a chance that you don't need to create an environment if there's already an environment that has other apps or other business data that you want to have access to. You only need to create an environment if this is the first app that you're creating, or if you're creating an app that doesn't need any data located in another environment with another common data service. The name of the environment that I'm going to create is going to be JB Lawn Care. And underneath this environment, we're going to create multiple different apps that all use the same common data service. If you're confused about environments and the common data service and apps and how those things fit together, check out Section 1. There's a nice slide that I use in several different videos in Section 1 that discuss how all the different components at their high level relate together, such as environments, the common data service, and apps. The name of this environment is going to be JB Lawn Care. The type is going to be production. There are two options here, trial or production. Production will persist, where the trial environment will be deleted automatically in 30 days. Sometimes it's useful to create an environment as a trial if you want to try different things or experiment, but you want to be able to throw away that environment or not have to think about it if it exists or lives longer than you intend to. The region that I'm going to choose is the United States. By default, you want to choose the region that's closest to where most of your users are going to be logging in at. There's several different options to choose from if you decide to expand this out. And for purpose, you can just type the purpose in here. I'm going to enter in production. That way I know it's the production environment. And chances are you might have a different environment that's for development that's different than your production environment. So you can create your apps and your changes in development and then promote those apps and changes into production. By default, with the Tier 2 license, you get 2 production instances included. All right, and then the last option here is to create a database for this environment. We're going to say yes to this, and this is going to create our common data service. Then we'll click Next. All right, so now that we chose yes on creating the database, it's going to ask us a couple of quick questions. The first is which language we want. In this language, we want to be English, and then also which currency, and that's United States dollars. These two settings will change how some of the punctuation might appear inside the app. The next option is to enable Dynamics 365 apps. You may choose to do this if you're building an app on top of a Dynamics 365 environment. Dynamics 365 is a separate product offering from Microsoft. It is not necessarily part of the Power Platform. However, it's heavily integrated with the Power Platform. The next question is deploy sample apps and data. We're going to choose no to this because we don't want a lot of clutter inside of the instance that we're creating. Now we're going to go ahead and click Save. Once we click Save, we'll see that it's preparing the instance here. We're going to wait a little bit. It can take between 5 to 10 minutes for the instance to be fully prepared. Now that our environment is successfully created, we're going to go back to make.powerapps.com and select that environment from the list. It's important when you come to make.powerapps.com that you're always on the correct environment at the top. After selecting the correct environment, from the left we're going to choose Apps. And since there are no apps, we're going to create our first one, and we're going to choose Model Driven. We're going to name the first app Sales and give it a description. This is the Sales app. The sections below, these checkboxes, we'll go over in a future video as they're more advanced topics. We're going to leave everything as is and click the Done button. All right, and once we created the app, we're presented with the app designer. You'll notice right away that there's an error that configuration is missing. This is because we didn't select to start with sample apps and data, and instead we're building our first app from scratch. In order to satisfy this and to continue on, we need to add at least one section into the sitemap. There'll be a video in the future that will go into detail about the sitemap and enhancing the app navigation. But for the rest of this video, we're going to quickly just add in a couple of things that we know our salespeople are going to need access to. Opening up the sitemap, we'll see that there's different areas that we can add, different components. If I wanted more areas in here, we could add those or delete those. We're going to start with just the basic area, and we're going to change the title to main. That way it displays that they're in the main area of the app when they use it. Underneath the new group here, we're going to call this sales. And underneath sales, there's a sub area. We're going to select that, change the type to entity, and we're going to display the account entity. So we're going to start to type account, and that should autocomplete. By default, every app starts with accounts automatically. I'm going to add in one more component here, which is another sub area. I know that our salespeople are going to also want to see contacts. So we're going to go ahead and add a reference to the contact record. All right. Once that's done, we can hit save and close. And you'll notice that that red box has left the sitemap. I'm going to hit save one more time and publish. And we'll open the app. And we'll see here the accounts and contacts sections have showed up, as well as the sales area. In the remaining videos for this section, we'll be adding in some custom entities and then adding them into the sitemap so they'll display here in the navigation. Let's recap the video. You can have many apps under a single environment. Choosing the currency and language for your app's database, the Common Data Service, will control some of the on-screen display of text and how certain texts are formatted. When first creating your app, you will need to set at least one area, group, and sub-area in the sitemap by opening it in the app designer that displays immediately after creating your app. New apps start with the accounts and contacts available, and I usually use these to set up my sitemap when I first create my app, even if they're just placeholders.